What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Odin coming back with another video, and today we are breaking down the box office for this weekend, September 20th to the 22nd. And it's been a pretty interesting weekend because we've had some movies that I thought would do a little bit better, some movies that I think overperformed, and some movies that I think we just downright forgot about. And so let's go ahead and talk about a few of those movies today. So first off, coming in at number one this weekend domestically is Downton Abbey, the movie. That's right, Downton Abbey, the movie. Forgot it was coming out this weekend, and yet it has doing very well domestically, also is doing decently overseas also. Definitely a film I think they did not think was going to be crazy big, but hey, coming in at number one over bigger franchise name films like Rambo Last Blood, I think that's definitely very impressive for them. Coming in number two is Astra, the one that has also gotten some controversy recently because of certain comments from people like Brad Pitt, and also of course from the critics trying to basically take over the narrative of what they think the movie should mean, and this movie making $19.2 million and actually beating out Rambo Last Blood. And it honestly makes me wonder whether or not the critics had anything to do with that. I know obviously we're very much critical of the critics, and rightly so, because of the nonsense that they like to try and push. They are basically political activists pretending to be critics nowadays, and I wonder what the impact they have, because at the end of the day, I think we can all admit that many people, most people that are the generic moviegoer, tend to look at Rotten Tomatoes. Whether we like Rotten Tomatoes or not, they tend to still be the site that many people still go to find out whether a movie is good or not. Now, we can be critical of those people. Many of those people, I assume, are also going to be looking at both the audience and critic score and collectively bringing them together to understand completely what the film overall is going to be, whether it's going to be a good film, but also an audience pleaser, whether it's going to be a bad film, but also an audience pleaser, or if it's just going to be crap all the way around. I think that there's definitely some truth to be found in it. However, most of them probably don't actually read the reviews and don't actually know the biases going on behind the scenes as such. Let's go ahead and dive into these three movies. These are one of the only three movies that we talk about today. The first one, of course, being Downton Abbey. This is a series. It's rather a movie based off of the series, written by Julian Fellowes, which I actually kind of like. I was very much into Downton Abbey for the first few seasons. Kind of fell off the wagon a little bit towards the end of the season. I think I'm about a season or two officially behind, and so I definitely want to catch up on that because this seems like it'd be a pretty entertaining movie. Honestly, it's going to be a movie that's not for everyone, but it is a PG drama, which I think is definitely something that's very rare these days, that it's an adult-oriented show that's PG. And again, I think that we don't have enough of those anymore, and so I will say that it seems to me that this is going to be a good family time, and rather a good time for adults, without having to go see a rated R film, without having to go see a toned down PG-13 film that should be rated R, or any combination of in between. 2 hours long, making $61.8 million worldwide, so that's $30 million overseas, and that's a movie that I think is probably making back its budget, probably going to be pretty good overall. I would say that it's going to have a decent run in the theaters, maybe. Again, coming in at number one, coming in over 10 million over the next highest grossing film, I think is very impressive for the movie version of this, but I think it's not really surprising, especially when you look at domestic numbers, because Downton Abbey is a very popular show among American audiences. And so to me, it makes a lot of sense that the film is overall doing well. Ad Astra, the one with Brad Pitt, again with some politics coming from Brad Pitt, who says that it's all about fighting toxic masculinity, and then you have the critics themselves trying to say that that's the whole motive of the film. But to me, I just think that the film likely is just going to be a film. I hear that if you look at it as just a film, it's kind of a B movie where it's very, very, very painfully slow. Not a good slow burn, but painfully slow, but has some very beautiful effects, some good acting in it from Brad Pitt also. So it's a film that I actually still want to see, despite the fact that Brad Pitt has opened up his mouth about it, and despite the fact that the critics are once again trying to hijack this, just like they try to hijack Joker, and then they decided to change their minds on Joker and decided to hijack it in the opposite direction. It's just critics once again acting like political activists instead of being actual movie critics themselves. And so this film starting out with $45.2 million, which to me seems kind of low for a film that seems to be pretty high budget, though of course I have not looked into the overall budget of the film. It's not available here on boxofficemojo.com, and it seems very likely that they could have cut some corners, but anything that deals with space, anything that deals especially where the basic plot of the film is that he has to go towards Neptune to find out some things that happened to people in his life, seems to me like something that you can't really spend very little on, especially as a sci-fi thriller. But obviously, I think that we won't know exactly how much it was spent. But it seems to me it would make sense that it would make around 100, or rather, it would be about a $100 million project. So it's definitely a lot slower start than I think that they may have wanted for the film. But also, maybe it is more than what they expected, because even though it has that big budget type feel with the effects, or at least seems to have that type of feel with the effects, it could also be one of those lower independent type feels instead, which means that they may have cut some corners and not spent as much money. Then we come to Rambo Last Blood. A lot of things to say about Rambo Last Blood. This film was made for a production of $50 million, which means it costs around $75 million to make when you take in marketing costs overall. And domestically, it's made $19 million. And I think that there's a lot of bad rap to this film because there are people trying to paint this as being xenophobic. And in fact, when you start to read some of these reviews, and you start to see that all of them at some point mention racism, xenophobia, or in many cases, Trump, as being a reason why they didn't like the movie, it starts to make you realize that they're not liking, or rather, they're not being critical of the film itself. They're not talking about the acting. They're not talking about the editing. They're not talking about the effects. They're still talking about these politics that they're trying to throw into all of these different films and being critical of that has nothing to do with the actual movie itself. And I think that all of us are just so sick and tired of it. Again, just talk about the damn movie. That's what the job of your critic is supposed to be. Again, if you're supposed to be a mainstream critic working for a mainstream media outlet, meaning you're supposed to be as objective as possible in your reporting, don't put your own your own politics into it. If you own a blog and it's your own personal blog, and you're basically trying to say, I'm my own person doing this or that, okay, maybe. But even then, if you're going to go ahead and try and say, I am an objective movie critic, I want to be recognized as such, then maybe you should try and be more objective in your points of view instead of trying to push political propaganda down the throats of your readers and down the throats of the different places that you post your reviews, like Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, etc. So Rambo Last Blood, I've actually heard some very good things about, though at the same time, too, the main consensus is it's a Rambo movie, meaning it's not the best movie in the world. It's not going to win any Oscars. It probably shouldn't win any Oscars, but it's a damn good time. That's what it's been hearing. That, again, that's the word that's been going around the streets, is that it's a damn good time. It's a Rambo movie. It's exactly what you expect to get out of a Rambo movie. In fact, it's actually been revealed that Sylvester Stallone wanted to make this movie. He wanted to make this movie more about the psychological impact of war. He wanted to go further into the effects of PTSD, and they shot him down. And so he wanted to make a deeper film. He wanted to make a film that would actually reach out more to the, the hoity-toity critics out there. But of course, Hollywood shut him down. And so instead, he just made a badass action film that takes place because he's currently living in a place that's near the border. And oh my gosh, yes, oh my goodness, there are bad people that live on the border. There are bad people from Mexico. Oh my gosh, we can't say there's bad people from every and any country. Oh my gosh, that must be racist and sexist. Oh my gosh, no. Just stop, okay? It's a story. He's always dealt with major themes and major issues of a time. That's why when his first movie came out, when the first Rambo came out, what was it about? It was about the Vietnam War. It was about soldiers after the Vietnam War. He went after the Ruskies. He went after the Russians. He went after every single group imaginable, and now he's going after the Mexican drug cartels, which, whether you want to admit it or not, people in Hollywood, people in the movie critics' chairs, in your high, lofty ivory towers, there is a dangerous situation going on at the border. And if you're going to try and stare me in the face and say that the border is not a dangerous place to be right now, then you are completely ignorant of reality, and you are completely ignorant and have your head so far up your ass that you have no idea what day of the week it is. But anyway, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Again, I'm sure a lot of y'all have already seen Rambo Last Blood. Let me know your thoughts about that, or any of the other movies that came out, Ad Astra or Downton Abbey. Again, all three of these are movies that I actually want to see for different reasons. Again, Downton Abbey because I really like the show overall, Ad Astra because I want to be able to make up my own opinion as to whether or not there's a message to the film or not. From what I've heard from people that I genuinely trust about movie reviews, they've said, no, it's a slow burn, but there's really no politics to it, which is exactly what I want to hear because that's exactly what we want in movies. And then what I'm hearing about Rambo Last Blood is that it is a Rambo movie. It is a badass Rambo movie with lots of action, and if you expect nothing else than that, then you don't know what you're going into. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this stuff and anything we talked about today in the comments below. If you like this video, smash the like button, give us a subscribe. It helps us out a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.